Welcome back to Top 5. George Joseph Smith. Born in London in 1872, George Joseph Smith was a master manipulator and bigamist who married 7 women between 1908 and 1914. His charm and deceit led him to drown his first wife, Bessie Williams, in their bathtub on July 13, 1912, claiming it was an accident. He swiftly collected her life insurance payout, disappearing like a phantom. Smith's second wife, Alice, met a similar fate 5 months later. This time, he managed to convince everyone that her death was also accidental. However, his third wife, Margaret Lloyd, became his downfall. After her mysterious death on December 18, 1914, her former landlord, suspicious of the pattern, contacted the police. This led to Smith's arrest and subsequent conviction for 3 counts of murder in 1975. Dubbed the Bluebeard of the Bath, he was executed by hanging on August 13, 1915, leaving behind a trail of sorrow and betrayal. 9. Henri Desire Landrew. Henri Desire Landrew, born in Paris in 1869, capitalized on the aftermath of World War I by placing personal ads in newspapers, presenting himself as a wealthy widower looking for companionship. Between January 1915 and January 1919, he lured at least 11 women to his home, where he brutally murdered them. Landrew dismembered his victims and incinerated their remains in his oven, leaving no trace behind. His reign of terror ended when the sister of one of his victims, Celestine Buisson, sought justice and convinced the police to investigate. Although the bodies were never found, Landrew's meticulous record-keeping tied him to numerous missing women. He was convicted in November 1921 and executed by guillotine on February 25, 1922. His chilling moniker, the Bluebeard of Gambais, reflected the horror he inflicted upon unsuspecting victims. 8. Lyda Souther. Hailing from Missouri, Lyda Souther, born in 1892, is remembered as one of America's first known female serial killers. She began her murderous spree in 1915, with the suspicious deaths of her young daughter, husband, and brother-in-law, all of whom conveniently passed away shortly after she collected substantial life insurance policies. After marrying 4 more times, 3 of her husbands and another child also met untimely deaths. A chemist, suspecting foul play surrounding the death of her first husband, Robert Dooley, led authorities to exhume the remains of her other victims. Tests revealed arsenic poisoning, confirming her guilt. Dubbed Mrs. Bluebeard, Souther was convicted in 1921 and sentenced to 10 years to life in prison. After escaping in 1931, she was imprisoned again and died of a heart attack in 1958. Her life was a grim testament to greed and deception. 7. Tilly Klimek. Tilly Klimek, born in Poland in 1876, emigrated to the United States and soon became embroiled in a series of suspicious deaths. After marrying 4 times, her second and third husbands died under mysterious circumstances. In 1921, her 4th husband fell ill and sought medical help, only to discover he had been poisoned with arsenic. This revelation led authorities to exhume the bodies of Klimek's former spouses and relatives, ultimately linking her to the deaths of 12 people, including her cousin's children. The press labeled her the High Priestess of the Bluebeard clique. In 1923, Klimek was convicted for the murder of her 3rd husband, Frank Kupczyk, and sentenced to life in prison. She died behind bars in 1936, her legacy marked by tragedy and betrayal. 6. Johann Otto Hauck. Johann Otto Hauck, born in Germany in 1855, was a notorious bigamist who married over 50 women in the United States using numerous aliases. He specifically targeted wealthy widows, charming them into marriage before poisoning them with arsenic. His victims would often be from affluent backgrounds, making their disappearances all the more suspicious. Hawk was arrested in 1905 after authorities connected him to multiple mysterious deaths. Despite confessing to several murders, he was only convicted for one, the death of his final wife, Marie Walker. His chilling statement, "Marriage was purely a business proposition to me," encapsulated his cold, calculated approach to killing. Hawk was executed in 1906, leaving a dark legacy of greed and deceit. 5. Alfred Leonard Kleene. Known as the Buttermilk Bluebeard, Alfred Leonard Kleene was accused of murdering at least 8 women and 1 man between 1930 and 1945. Kleine's modus operandi involved serving his victims buttermilk laced with sedatives, allowing him to inherit their estates. Despite numerous suspicions surrounding his wives' deaths, Kleene evaded murder charges due to a lack of concrete evidence, as he cremated his victims shortly after their deaths. Ultimately, he was convicted of 9 counts of forgery related to the killings and sentenced to 126 years in prison. He died of a heart attack in Folsom Prison in 1948, leaving behind a cloud of suspicion and fear. 4. Belle Gunness. Belle Gunness, the Lady Bluebeard, was a formidable figure in the early 20th century. Born in Norway in 1859, she emigrated to the United States in 1881 and quickly began exploiting her marriages for financial gain. After her first husband died under suspicious circumstances, she collected a life insurance payout and used the money to buy a farm in LaPorte, Indiana. Gunness' second husband and her children also met untimely deaths, raising eyebrows as she placed ads seeking wealthy suitors. Many of these men vanished after visiting her farm, leading to suspicions of foul play. On April 28, 1908, her farmhouse burned down, revealing the remains of several men buried on her property. While authorities never conclusively identified the headless body found in the fire as Gunness, many believed she had faked her death to escape justice. Her legacy remains shrouded in mystery and horror. 3. Hermandrenth. Hermandrenth, known as the Bluebeard of Clarksburg, was a calculating killer who preyed on women he met through personal ads. After marrying his first wife, Luella, he began placing ads claiming to be a wealthy widower seeking companionship. Drenth's murderous spree began in 1931 when he killed Asta Eicher and her 3 children after stealing their money. His crimes escalated as he traveled to Northborough, Massachusetts, where he murdered Dorothy Pressler Lemke, whom he intended to marry. Investigators uncovered the remains of 5 victims in his garage, leading to his arrest. Drenth was convicted and executed by hanging on March 18, 1932, leaving a legacy of horror and betrayal in his wake. 2. James Watson. James Watson, simply known as Bluebeard, was a notorious bigamist who married 22 women across various states. His penchant for personal ads led him to unsuspecting victims, and he claimed to have killed 7 of his brides. His downfall came when Catherine Wambacher, suspicious of his intentions, hired a private detective. The investigation revealed multiple marriage licenses and financial documents in Watson's possession, leading to his arrest. He admitted to the murders, stating, "Something just told me to go and marry them, and yet something told me not to." Watson was sentenced to life in prison, where he died of pneumonia in 1939, his legacy marked by deceit and betrayal. 1. Lowell Edwin Amos. At the top of this horrific list is Lowell Edwin Amos, a former General Motors executive who committed murder in a shocking display of greed. On December 10, 1994, Amos killed his 3rd wife, Roberta, in a Detroit hotel room. After lacing her drink with sedatives, he smothered her to death and staged the scene to make it appear like an overdose. Investigators soon discovered that Amos's previous wives had also died under suspicious circumstances, leading to revelations that he had collected over $1 million in life insurance payouts. Charged only with Roberta's murder, he was convicted in 1996 and sentenced to life in prison. The judge labeled him a modern-day Bluebeard, encapsulating the horror and betrayal he embodied, a chilling reminder of the darkest aspects of human nature.